Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Foxworth Friday. Domonique Foxworth, what's going on?
Nah, just trying to muster up this Friday mood, man. I just listened. I did the same thing that you did. Ill-advised. Watched that Scarface Tiny Desk just before now. It's moving, man.
Look, man, we'll get to the sports. Don't worry. There's plenty of NFL. We're going to talk about this. I briefly mentioned the Tiny Desk on Monday's show, but, dude, wrecked it, right? Like, wreck shop. So I want to, hit people with a couple levels that you may not necessarily know about, right? Number one, DC loves Scarface. Like when they did the shots on the NPR Tiny Desk and they showed the people in the audience rapping word for all that Scarface stuff, you don't understand. Like outside of Houston, it's DC and Chicago. Now the Chicago connection, that's about something a little bit different. I don't think it goes exactly the same way with DC, but the first thing Scarface does is send a shout out to Big G in the Backyard Band. Who's Big G? You Wire fans. That's Slim Charles. That's his band that he's in. And they used to stay doing Ghetto Boy Scarface covers like at shows and everything else. So he's starting off by letting you know without everybody knowing this home team. And then does the home team song from Houston and I was just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. And then he gets to Never See the Man Cry, and I'm watching it at 7:45, and he's talking about what it's like to die, even though he's not dead. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting all these feels. Thanks for coming behind this with fuck faces. I needed something to kind of lighten things up, but even that felt a little weighty given the circumstance.
I told you before that Ghetto Boy's Mind Playing Tricks on Me is the first tape that I got myself. I'm hoping, I don't remember exactly because I looked up the release date. I'm hoping that it was old by the time I got to it because it said it was released in 91. I was born in 83. So if I was listening to Mind Playing Tricks on Me at 8, or 9, I guess. Yeah, that's rough.
You know what though? My mama liked my Mind's Playing Tricks on Me, and I don't.
That's just catchy,
you have to understand. I've never seen my mama voluntarily just listen to music. Like that ain't her bag. Like she listen to the news. She might listen to something a little, with some Jesus in it. But like. I was like, my Mind Playing Tricks on Me was so big in Houston at one point that on the top 5 countdown, it was number 2 and number 1 because they wasn't nobody calling in with enough songs to fill out the countdown.
I got to be honest. I had no idea what the song. It's like a lot of the sexual R&B songs that we grew up listening to that used a lot of euphemisms. You didn't really, when you were young, you didn't really know what they was talking about. Like, I didn't know what Mind Playing Tricks on Me was about when I was a kid. I didn't. So, like, I remember listening to Ghetto Boys. And then, like, when I got older and actually started, like, listening to music, I was an East Coast, lyricist, the guy, and I had no respect for the South. So it wasn't until many years later till I actually knew what Mind Playing Tricks on Me was about and appreciated the depth and complexity. So even if I was listening to it when I was 8, I just was dancing to the tune. I wasn't, like, really feeling it, I hope.
Now, I wonder if my mama understood that, like, yo, this is a cautionary tale about the gangster lifestyle. I need to impart this into my kid and the ones that I teach, right? Maybe that was it. I'm not really sure. Like, even at your age, you could have used some of that in there just so you understand, man, that, like, being a gangster may, in the end, make you go crazy, right? Like, this is important.
Maybe that's what happened.
It's so cold, though.
I mean, maybe that's why I went on the straight and narrow. Maybe everybody should have been listening to Mind Playing Tricks on them before they was 10.
Dog, it was so cold. Like the beat is perfect. Scarface is regulated. Like every song, it felt very spoken word, right? Like one thing about the Tiny Desk is everybody that does it is really good at making you feel like you're in this small room, right? Like they bring you in very, very close. I am waiting for somebody though to get on there and decide instead to turn it into like a big budget production that you don't understand. Like they act like it's an arena, except they crowding around that desk. But Scarface is so in and present in every moment in a way that almost makes you, again, a little uncomfortable because he speaks with the detail about what it's like to die, to be a man who is, not dead. He gave a smile, too, which I greatly appreciate.
Oh, yeah, whatever. I'm in a dark mood. I I mean, it's my favorite I've ever seen. Like, I feel like maybe Juvenile was next, and I'm sure there's some singy ones that people like more, but those ones spoke to me the most. I will be picking up the autobiography. So I was motivated when I'm listening to the lyrics of Tiny Desk, and like actually appreciating the complexity of it and how great a writer he was. I decided I want to just take a quick peruse of the Wikipedia. I start welling up when I realized he dropped out of school and spent time in a psychiatric ward. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the autobiography. I know I'm gonna have to read that.
Maybe one of my favorite details about the autobiography, because he played guitar in the Tiny Desk. People don't realize he's one of these multi-instrumental dudes. But he said the first two tapes he ever got was Boston's self-titled album and Dynasty by Kiss. Like, he's that dude. Last of a Dying Breed, which is his Dare is the Dark Side, which is to say an album I love, but he don't remember because he was just using so much dope. And he said all he was doing at that time was doing dope and listening to Van Morrison. And that is like what your end result turned out to be. It does not sound anything like a Van Morrison record, guys.
I mean, I think about like probability of some. I mean, I guess everybody has their own story, and maybe some people, when they become successful, maybe make it sound like they came from tougher times. But what it had me thinking about, and maybe this is the bridge back to sports that we need. It had me thinking about how unlikely he is, and like how obviously talented he is, but how unlikely his success is, and being in a society where that stuff is valued at the right time and finding the right people, and which motivated me too to get the autobiography, because I want to read the story, but it just feels all so random, but also like unavoidable, which I don't know if I'm making any sense, but this is the mindset that I'm in. So y'all know how good the Tiny Desk is. I'm just out here swimming and I'm not high.
Well, I'll tell you this. It had me thinking about like two things on a similar front. Number one, sorry, kids, our rappers are so much better than yours. Yeah. Like, it's just not. And part of it is they were building something, right? There was no blueprint to really go from, right? Like, there was no Scarface for Scarface to sound like, and there's also, I'll never forget this. And I already kind of messed with him a little bit about this, but if my man Clarence is listening, I want him to hear this again in case any other people. So I went out to Claremont, California for graduate school. So this is after I grew up in Houston. I did 4 years in Atlanta. And when I was in Houston, I was like you, man. I was more inclined toward, East Coast, like lyricism type stuff. Like, not exclusively, but that was my inclination. And then I got to Atlanta in 1997, and then New Yorkers was coming down. And quite honestly, man, these motherfuckers was out of pocket. They was misunderstanding who was at home and who was playing role games. And it turned me into a bit of a militant. And like, I appreciated Scarface before, but I really got there. And then The Fix came out, and The Fix was just like, oh, this is it. But I remember I'm out there in Cali. I'm with these boys, and it's like super fancy schools, right? So I'm not saying anything about these boys' relationship with their blackness, because honestly, that varied in case to case, right? The cats I'm talking about, it didn't matter where they was at. They knew what time it was with them. They had access to the culture, whatever it is, right? They wasn't like, it was some people in Claremont who had never been around as many black people as they had when they got to Claremont. These people I'm talking about were not living in that front, right? But they was smarty art about their music, right? Like, their taste was it's one thing to be like, I'm on the lyricism kick, but like, they liked Talib a little too much. Right? Like, they was out here rooting for all them syllables, right? Because they wanted to feel like it was on some high-minded, and I'm from the South. We connect in a different way. It don't necessarily need to go there. And them cats was trying to be disrespectful to Scarface. And the thing I thought we all agreed on was Scarface, right? Like, because the East Coast cats had love for Scarface. The West Coast cats had love for Scarface. Like, that was the one thing nobody had a problem getting down with. And these cats was out here being disrespectful to Scarface. And then they heard The Fix, and I ain't hear nothing no more. And so when this NPR Tiny Desk came out, I sent my man the link, and I said, remember y'all tried to tell me that Scarface was whack? They wasn't even just on some like, nah, I don't dig it. They was trying to like educate me that he was whack. They had an impression. And I was like, go listen to him rap right there at 53 years old or whatever it is, and just hear he is one of the great singer-songwriters of all time.
And the point that you made, so I assume that we just being old crotchety people, like how Tom Brady talking about football was better back in the day when you could hit people. When you say that, like, our rappers was better. However, you made a point that I feel like it'll give me something to grab onto, some legitimacy to grab onto. Is like the art form is developed in a way now where it's hard to be as original and unique. It's developed in a way economically as a financial engine and just as general art form that, as special as Kendrick Lamar is as a lyricist, and maybe it's also my age, I appreciate it, but it don't hit me the same way the stuff hit me when I was young. And it might be because no matter what, he is a version of someone else or an amalgamation of many other someones who were very popular. Because, like, I grew up loving Nas. And while Nas, you could argue, is some version of a previous rapper, ain't nobody know who the hell it was. Like, Curtis Blow and The Message was like, it was a hit. But, I mean, come on, we wasn't really listening to it. That was the time period when it felt like the 90s was the time period when, if there is a Goldilocks zone, like a sweet spot where, it is building on something that's happening, and it is also innovating at the same time. And then you had the South influx, which was, like, I know Scarface was before that, but then the South became a whole nother style of music, to me at least, that was new, where I couldn't be my erudite self where I was like, oh, lyrics. No, that shit made you move. Yeah, you just couldn't help it. It was good.
And that was the thing. Scarface, the game up with that wasn't to make you move part. But as he said in the Tiny Desk about the first time he did, I seen a man cry, was that his voice make your back straighten up. Like, you don't really hear too many people now that when they get that mic and they just say something, it's like, oh, okay, you are in charge.
I had the same feeling as you, where it's spoken word. And, like, I'm not a fan of spoken word generally, but it is about the words. And it's though the music was great, and I know he had some production involvement in all that too, because, I mean, he deserves the credit for that too.
He is a producer.
Yeah, I know he produced a lot for a bunch of other people, and I know he produced some of his own songs. But the point about the words is, I don't even know if you would call it flow. It's obviously flow, but it's a unique flow. It's not a flow like there's. Flow now is meant to sound like an instrument, I feel like, and I feel silly trying to explain this to you, because I'm sure you've thought about this more complex. Maybe we need to get Spencer on here. He is the musicologist. But yes, flow to me now in modern music is talking about, like, using your voice as an instrument. I don't know that Scarface is using his voice as an instrument, but the way that he's using his voice is accentuating the words in a way that the music is about the words. The music is about propping up the words.
It's the preacher tradition, right? Like, vocally, this is an era where the minister is still like Chuck D gives you a lot of preacher too, right? Like there's in what Chuck always says is that the equipment and the technology of the time required your voice to do certain things just to make sure that people could hear you. Like, the microphone game hadn't gotten to where it is, right? But, like, when I think about the words, because I was going back through on my block, and some of that for me is like, I remember when I got to Atlanta in 97 and the Outkast stuff, like, there was plenty that I understood and I got, but I still didn't really speak the language. So I don't know what the 86 Lithonia is until I'm sitting there and the bus comes past and it says 86 and it says Lithonia on it. Those are just words that I'm rapping along with while I'm there, right? So, like, when he's talking about, like, the streets on my block, I'm like, I don't think this can really make sense to you, right? Or, like, if you're not from a particular town, we talk about on your block, you probably bred a Fat Pat, a Tupac, a Big Pun, a B.I. The Fat Pat part's not gonna make any sense to you, right? Like, you gotta have a touch in there with that place. You talk about, that's about people knew him back when he was stealing beer from Shamrock. I don't even think Shamrock's still open in Houston no more. The Diamond Shamrock, that's the corner store, right? There's so many things that, to me, it's like, it's so interesting when these things can catch on with other people, when the language in it is actually so particular to one place.
Yeah.
But we can still get enough of it to feel it,
Yeah, I get you. I think that it makes it a little bit more resonant for those people, but the general gist of the song, like, that touch everybody. You don't got to be, so much of hip hop is about being from poverty, but you don't have to be. Like, that is just about growing up. Like, everyone relates to that. Though I don't understand all the avenues and intersections and specific places, like, I know I'm thinking about my friends, and I think about the things that I did, the places I played, the things and that beat is perfect for that too. Like the beat speaks to it. It's nostalgic in a way, even though I mean it's double nostalgic now because I'm thinking about when the song came out and thinking about what I was doing when I was a kid.
Yeah, and perfect sample choices. Be Real Black for Me by Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, right? Like it gets it. Like the line for blackness in there is the fucker I rock, we race Impalas, chrome dots. Like, no, they drive. That ain't them. That's us. Okay, we'll talk about some football. My bad. You guys got caught in there. Talk about it's Christmas weekend. NFL just telling the NBA, just putting their feet all up on their couch, right? and you know what makes it the worst about the fact that he's putting their feet up on the couch for Christmas? The Baltimore, was it Baltimore, Miami? Is that we getting now?
San Francisco. Baltimore, San Francisco.
Baltimore, San Francisco. Yeah. Okay, that's a good game, and it's at night after the good NBA games have already been played. Otherwise, man, they just putting their feet on the NBA couch with mediocrity.
They definitely are coming in and stealing the NBA's girl without even driving their best car and wearing their finest linens. they just coming in like, she know who I am, man. Like, just a reminder, because normally it's like, if it lands on a Sunday, tough shit, NBA. We ain't going to move our stuff for you. If it lands on a Monday, all right, well, y'all got the whole day, but we got to have our Monday night. Or Thursday, the same thing. They was like, not like, this is the first time. If I remember correctly, it's the first time that they was like, nah, we going to play all day long.
Yeah, because they would put them on, like, if Christmas fell on Sunday, they would play it on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And then they'd play on New Year's Day, and then the bowls would be January 2nd, like, under those circumstances. Nah, man, they just decided, why are we out here being nice, right? Like, why are we even doing this for these people? And so they going to come out here with the Chiefs and the Raiders and the Giants and the Eagles. And I got to say, man, I'd be salty. Like, they act like it's such an honor to play on Christmas Day without getting no time and a half.
Yeah.
We don't get no time and a half for the holidays, homie.
I never thought that was a good thing. I remember in college, we play on New Year's or something, which would mess up all our Christmas and New Year's. We had to play on Thanksgiving and all that, and people be excited and like thrilled because you get the stage to yourself. That ain't never feel good to me. I'm good. I would rather like don't eat up my holiday with work.
Well, I always wonder with them college teams, right? So in Mississippi, Ole Miss play Mississippi State every year on Thanksgiving Day. That's when they have the Egg Bowl. They have it on Thanksgiving Day. And that means them boys for 4 years have to spend their Thanksgiving Day. Ain't no going to the crib or whatever. You eating Thanksgiving with the people on the team. And I just want to know who catering. That's all I want to know. Because, like, I'm sure they be living good with that training table and everything else, but I feel like I'm getting robbed on Thanksgiving Day if I got to be out here adhering to the training table. And on top of that, it kind of reminds me, you remember when it all went bad for Randy Moss in Minnesota that second time? And one of the things that happened is they went to dinner somewhere and Randy Moss was complaining about the food. He said, I wouldn't feed that to my dog. I don't know if he said it like that, but that was what the quote was. And then there was some anonymous quote that was like, and the food was good too. And I'm like, nah, okay, I know what happened here. Randy Moss was speaking for the wide receivers, and that quote came from one of them linemen. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe even a quarterback. Randy Moss, this food ain't got no seasoning in it. Like he's expecting something different. And I'm just saying, it's possible them boys been eating dry ass. They came for dressing. They got stuffing, and they had to do that for 4 years. 4 years. Big Mama been just hoping you could come home. Nope.
At least for them, though, the Egg Bowl is a big deal. So you actually got to play in a fun, cool game. Let me tell you something about playing Wake Forest on Thanksgiving. Let me tell you a little something about Wake Forest on Thanksgiving week. Let me tell you what's happening down there in Winston-Salem. Not a damn thing. College Park too. When they would bring Wake up here for that game, I feel like, I don't know why that's the only memory I have. I feel like we always played Wake Forest on Thanksgiving week, and it would be empty. Everybody would go home. No, nobody's on campus. There's a couple people in the stands, and we just out here just having a practice against people in other uniforms.
You know what? It probably was Wake Forest every year because y'all, Wake Forest, the only other people that ain't had no rival.
That's true. Yeah,
everybody else got somebody to play.
Yeah, we used to beat Virginia's ass earlier in the season, but ain't nobody want to do that at the end of the year. It was bad. Those was dark days, man. Dark days. Them games. You ain't even care about getting no stats. Let's just get this over. Y'all know y'all gonna lose. We know we gonna win. Let's all go home healthy. All right.
I can't imagine the way that Virginia fans look down on you boors. There's no other way to put it. You are a boorish bunch.
What's worse? Being a state school that know you a state school, or being a state school that tried to be a private school? Like, that's so lame.
I definitely prefer Maryland boorish over UVA snooty. Boy, you got a lot to overcome with me when you tell me you went to UVA. Like, oh boy, that's tough.
It's the worst kind of person too. Like, generally, I imagine if you were to imagine UVA as a human, it would be the one who is trying to pretend like they not from where they from, they friends ain't who they friends are, and try to act like, oh no, I'm like them over there. No, you're not. If you don't get your black ass back over here with us, like, stop it. They ain't better than us. They are different, but they ain't better than us. Be your state school self.
It's the University of Slavery, man. Like, it's kind of hard to ignore that part.
All the universities are the University of Slavery.
Yes, yes. But
I live not far from Georgetown, and they fighting over that right now.
You're not wrong about that. But Thomas Jefferson just has a slightly different role in the name of the game of all this. Like, it feels different with his UVA, right? And now that they got they call themselves more liberal or whatever it is, but nah, man, this still there, man. This still there.
I mean, it's fine. Like, I was about to name some names, and that would have just been mean. Play the music. Play the music.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to come at they next. Put that aside. The only thing out of Virginia that I like, though, you don't have to play the music for this. Thomas Jones. He makes me happy. He's cool. Rest of them. Oh, what's his name too? Chris Canty. He went to Virginia. They all right. Y'all got some okay.
Yeah,
people.
That always shocks me. I always have to remember that.
Yeah,
Chris Long. I like Chris Long.
Yeah, Chris Long is cool too. It's the individuals are cool, but it is what they represent. It reminds me of Ole Miss too, where it's like, so you got recruited, you had choices, and you decided to go to the place where they wear gray and wave the Confederate flag, right? Or used to wave the Confederate flag. For who? For what?
Yeah, so I had a significant relationship once with a woman whose brother played for UVA, and I will tell you, they ain't all like some of these others, shall we say. he was not like them in any way.
I mean, they do want to win.
Yes, they do. They just don't ever actually, do the winning. But we'll come back in just a second, talk some more about this NFL on the right time. Prize Picks is the most fun you can have by winning up to 25 times your money this football season, and now you can play during basketball season too. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. And with the NBA back, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. Prize Picks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. And if you stick around for the end of the show, you'll get to hear some picks from producer Sean that can either help you win or make you fail miserably. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, Domonique, we did talk about the NFL, ruining the NBA's Christmas, but Baltimore, San Francisco, Super Bowl preview, question mark?
I picked Baltimore and Philadelphia before the season started. Philadelphia ain't trying to do it, but yeah. You know what? I was thinking about this and been talking about it a little bit with some people that I think you would appreciate is football is still football, guys. So all you nerds with your calculators need to look up and see who the best 2 teams in the game are. And they are the teams who will punch you in the face. They are the teams who care about scheme. And as much as we like to celebrate Kyle Shanahan's scheme, look at them Shanahan teams. They have always been punch you in the face defenses and offenses. And the two teams that have separated themselves run the shit out of the ball and play good, solid defense. And the last thing I'll say, as much as, and this, I've been guilty of falling into this trap of, I don't call it trap because it's valuable, positional value when you're talking about building a roster and drafting and where you spend your money. We talk about positional value. You want to spend it on positions that can have a lot of impact, which means you don't want to spend it on running backs and you don't want to spend it on inside linebackers. The only two teams in football, or the best two linebacker cores in football, inside linebacker cores in football, belong to the 49ers and the Ravens. And that matters because if you notice, the best way to attack teams is to attack their linebackers in the pass game. And then you throw Kyle Hamilton in there, who is a safety, but also big as a damn linebacker and can run like a safety. It's impressive. And it's just a reminder that we're not in Quiz Bowl. So as much as the intelligence helps and the schematics help and the improving probabilities helps, I want it all in there. I want somebody in here with a calculator. However, sooner or later, we're going to beat somebody's ass.
Like, it's just, dude, it gets, there's nothing like I said, watching that Buffalo, like I said, watching Buffalo and the Cowboys and just watching Buffalo just be like, we're going to run it and we're going to run it and we're going to run it some more. Hey, man, it works. There's a reason why people was doing it all the time. It's like, once you figure out you can do it, I don't understand why you would ever do anything else. We are going to run. We're going to run. Like, that's the thing with the 49ers. They recognize this, too, because if they got to throw, they got a problem. But if they can throw while these other things are going on, then they're going to do it. And Shanahan, I'll give him this. He and his daddy, well, his daddy really was the one that really messed the game up for running backs, right? When Terrell Davis got hurt, and then they plugged in Mike Anderson, and Mike Anderson ran for 1,500 yards, and then they got like another 1,000 yards out of Olandis Gary. Nothing was ever the same for running backs. That's when people came to believe that they were just interchangeable, and they had figured out this magical system where they were cheating, little leg whipping going on here, right? They don't, like, I don't know if they still do all that stuff, but either way, they had deemed the running back was interchangeable. And then I look up and Kyle Shanahan is trading picks and giving up all this money for Christian McCaffrey. And I thought the whole point of having Kyle Shanahan was so you didn't have to do all that to get a running back. And he was like, watch this stuff. Watch this. Like, I will give this to Kyle. All these people that like he's doing well enough and it's like, oh, wow, he's doing this with Jimmy Garoppolo. Kyle knew Jimmy Garoppolo ain't have it, right? Like, oh, he's doing this with Raheem Mostert. He knew he could do something different if he had Christian McCaffrey, and he went and made it happen.
It's a reminder that I say this all the time, that absolutes are for children and for dumb people. And I think when we put out these absolutes about this is the right way to do it, these are the right players to pay, these are the right type of plays to run. The reason why we do that is to protect from dumb people who don't understand that. But actual people who are like above the average understand that you're looking for, no player is the same and no like ingredient is the same. And so when you have special ingredients, do specific things for them. So yes, by and large, overall, over the entire sample size, passing is more efficient than running. You know why? It's because running is hard. But if you can run the ball well, it is much lower risk and super efficient. I'm not sure what the numbers support, but I'm guessing that the turnover rate is much lower for 5-yard runs than 5-yard passes. The problem is it's probably easier to throw it for 5 yards than run it for 5 yards. So by and large, if you are just an average coach or a below average coach, yes, follow these rules. Follow these hard and fast rules because you, sir, are a dumb person. If you are not, then go ahead. Get a little bit spicy with it, get the right players and build something that you can, because no one would have ever thought like, hey, Deebo Samuel, he's not quite fast enough or quick enough to be a shutdown wide receiver, but he sure is good with the ball in his hand. Let's put him in the backfield. Let's put him over here. Let's do this. Let's do that with him. Like, that's you can't go to every team and say, you know what's good for you? If you put your receivers in the backfield, go ahead and do that with Devontae Smith. It ain't going to work. It's about special players, and they know that.
Can you imagine if Kyle had never got his hands on Percy Harvin? I feel like we've talked about this here before, but still, can you imagine if Kyle had never got his hands on Percy Harvin?
Reggie Bush? Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them.
Although the fear with Percy Harvin is he might get his hands on you.
I get the feeling that Kyle Shanahan grew up around football and loves it so much that there is a number of touchdowns that Percy Harvin can score where he would forgive that shit.
Percy Harvin, I mean, all the Percy Harvin at Florida stories, and those of you who've heard me talk about it before, to me, Percy Harvin was the real coach at Florida. And I say that Percy Harvin was the coach at Florida because once you beat your coach up and there's no punishment, allegedly, you are now the coach. It doesn't matter if it's your position coach. If you beat your position coach up and there was no punishment, it's only because the head coach ain't want to get his ass whooped too. And all the rules say you the boss now, and the boss is the coach. You the coach now.
I don't think that needs to be explained. Anyone who doesn't understand that, if you do the most wild shit you can possibly do, and then the repercussions is we're gonna give you the ball and we're gonna let you do whatever, then yeah, you in charge. There is absolutely no pushback. I reread a bunch of those old Percy stories because of that thing I was writing, and it's outstanding.
The idea that they was running stadium steps one day and Percy Harvin sat down and said, quote, "This shit stops now," unquote, and the next day for conditioning they was hooping. That's how you know Percy Harvin was the actual head coach. Hey, speaking of people who run the ball. Okay.
Hold on. I'll add one more point, and this might springboard. It definitely could springboard us into some other stuff that I want to talk about. But you know who Kyle Shanahan went and got to be his general manager? He ain't get one of you nerds. He got a neck knocker-looser, John Lynch, who was not covering no damn body. John Lynch was out there for no other reason. John Lynch could not, and I don't mean this is no disrespect. I like John. I still talk to him on occasion. I went to his Hall of Fame party.
You played with him, right?
Yeah, I played with him in Denver. John Lynch was one of them guys. He was only on the team because he cared about winning more than he cared about his body. And he would throw that shit into everything. He was so intense.
John Lynch, Stanford grad, so I guess he has like enough like nerd bona fides there. I think I was talking to Sap about this once because I have, as an evaluator of football, never been a great John Lynch fan because like John Lynch, as you said, was not there to cover anybody. I feel like John Lynch got a little more. John Lynch is a Ring of Honor guy. That's my feeling on John Lynch, right? Sap said the same thing you did, though. Yeah, except he's a neck knocker looser. He is out here knocking necks loose. Yeah, that's what he came to do. He figured out that's his niche. Now, I want to know who he was hanging out with on that team. Like, after they got Brad Culpepper out of there, who was there on the defense for John Lynch to hang out with?
Yeah, John. So he was older when I got to Denver, but John, you know these guys, they have so much respect that, so he was
on the Tampa team, though, before he had got the respect.
That's what
all he had was a cage face mask.
I got a feeling that he earned that respect really damn quickly. That's something, as we were talking about, football, no matter how you change the rules, the bottom line is it's barbaric. If you can break people, then you are going to get respect quickly. And John Lynch could do that.
Yo, man, we was up in here the other day talking about how we ain't really see the hospital ball like that no more. And I was not watching this game live, but I saw the replay because everybody sent it to me. And they was like, "Oh, you thought the hospital ball gone out of style, huh?" Gardner Minshew threw a hospital ball to Michael Pittman, and he caught it. And I don't want to get into whether or not the Kazee dude should have got suspended or whatever. I don't know what he did early this year. I don't know what he was supposed to do on this play. But I definitely saw that replay, and all I saw was Michael Pittman Jr., and his neck looked loose. His neck looked really, really loose.
I'm glad that he got up, and we can talk about this now, and we are not having a repeat of last year because it felt like we could have. Let me tell you a little something about who I'm raising in my house. not intentionally, but it just is in his blood, I guess. Is I'm watching this with my 10-year-old son, and he started saying, but a receiver can't bend down like that. Is that a penalty on him? It's like, son, sir, we have changed this. Like you haven't grown up in a world where that was legal. I grew up in a world where that was legal. I played in the league. They changed the rules while I was in the league. Where are you getting this from? What, blaming the receiver in this? Like we understand now that that's just going to be a catch. But not him. He was like, nah, he bent down. Where he's supposed to hit him? He's not. He's not supposed to hit him anymore.
You were proud, weren't you?
A little bit. But also, I didn't show it.
You raised the DB. You raised the DB. Like my good buddy Michael Felder. He's a DB. You probably feel the same way Michael Felder does about this. If there's anything in this world that my buddy Michael Felder hates, it's a little something called forward progress. The very idea of forward progress is the most offensive thing in the world to him.
What is the point of it? I agree with him. It doesn't make any sense. If you want to be down there, go down. If we pushed you back, then we push you back. You know what also annoys me is people, I mean, it doesn't annoy me because I don't think much about it, but it confuses me why people generally are mad at DBs who celebrate incomplete passes, even if it was a bad throw. It is hard as shit. Like, I don't give a shit who did it. I'm dancing. I'm doing the seatbelt strap, handcuffs. I'm doing it all. Just so y'all know, because there are several times in the game where the quarterback looks your way, and then because your coverage is so good, they look and throw it elsewhere. We don't get to dance for that either. But anyway, people just don't like DBs because, well, I can tell you.
No, that's the thing. DB is the blackest position in the game.
A number of ways, not just literally.
But interestingly, they don't get the hell the receivers get, right? Like the receivers get all the hell for basically the blacks are out of control. Yeah. Like everything about it is just blackness run amok.
I think it's because don't nobody want to do our job. So they're like, all right, go ahead. I don't really like what they're doing, but I ain't going to do it. So they can go ahead and act foolish. No.
That's the thing that I say about like Deion Sanders, no matter what anybody wants to say. He has been deemed as perhaps the greatest of all time at the position that more people are the height and weight for, and nobody really wants to do. What do? I run backwards all day long. It's like playing water polo.
Except the person you're playing against is not in water, or they got a propeller behind them or something. It is definitely like playing water polo against dolphins. It's not fun.
And they're probably taller than you, right? Probably bigger.
I remember I talked to you about a piece that I was thinking about writing a long time ago about how the position is not only literally black, but symbolically or metaphorically it's quite black, and that they changed the rules and nobody really wants you to succeed. It was much smarter than that when I talked to you about that pitch, but it's very true. Don't nobody want you out there doing what you're doing. Everybody boo when you get a breakup. People want to see touchdowns, and it's one of the few places. Well, I guess it's not one of the few places. It's probably pretty consistent across a lot of industries that the hardest job is not the job that gets the most credit or celebration. I mean, I guess Deion changed that a little bit, and we respect DBs, but still, how could you be doing like everyone appreciates that it's the most difficult physical thing to do on the field, but by and large, every fan base talks shit about their corners. Like, find me a fan base that's like, I love our corners.
No. They don't talk shit about your corners, but there's a corner. We all got one. I've talked about this many times through the years, and I'm going to say it again just because the name goes off in your head immediately when you think of that corner who played for your team. Everybody knows whose mine is, a dude by the name of Charles Toast Demery, who once Jerry Rice scored 5 touchdowns on Charles Toast Demery, and I just need somebody to explain to me, because Deion ain't never been afraid, right? I just need somebody to explain to me what the fuck he was doing while Charles Toast Demery was getting lit up for 5 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, the Ravens. Well, see, you was rooting for the Ravens, so they ain't had one.
Yeah, they didn't have one. That defense was ridiculous. And that's the point. Everyone has one. So why don't everybody just accept that we all have one? I guess it's kind of like how everybody complain if somebody farts around you. You're like, that stink. Like your farts don't stink. It's the hardest shit that do. Like, no one, it's rare that everyone has 2. And these days you need 3 good man coverage corners. You can't do it. You can't find 3 of them. I mean, forget 3 of them. You can't find 64 of them at any given time. So let's just give them some credit. I had this fight when we were talking about the Eagles lost the other day. And I come in to get up the morning after, and people are like, man, they cooked Bradbury at the end of those games. Like, those are great throws and great catches. Those fades over there. And one, DK Metcalf caught on his hip on a slant. Like, Bradbury's good coverage, a good corner. If they're going to throw it like that, and they're going to catch it in the rain on their fingertips, like Njigba did, you can't blame Bradbury for that shit. Get a sack like y'all did last year, Eagles. Get some sacks. Where y'all at?
Now, let me tell you this, too. When there is a dominant corner, it is. I don't know. I went to the premiere for the 30 for 30 for the Heisman race in 97. I don't know if my name just still on some list that people forgot, but I was like, all right, cool, I'll go, right? So I show up, and of course I don't work there no more, so I show up in sweats. Like, I'm just out here living a different life. Charles Woodson clips of him in that Heisman Trophy winning season, I forgot, because this was my freshman year of college. Honestly, I had other stuff to do on Saturdays, right? Yo, it was bananas watching how, like, when there is a corner that is clearly the best player on the field, like, I was thinking about Deion Sanders. Like, it looks different than any other position when a corner is just out here like, no, I run this.
A cornerback won the Heisman, guys. The Heisman Trophy. The Heisman.
It earned it.
Yes, it earned it. He was pretty damn special. You know, I'm partial to Champ. I think Champ, honestly, I think the season that he had when I played opposite him was the best season that any cornerback has ever had, because you got a 3rd-round pick corner playing opposite, so you know where they throwing. I think they only threw at him 53 times, 58 times that season. That motherfucker had 8 interceptions. I mean,
I knew it was something unreal.
Yeah, I mean, my numbers may be off, but he had like 8. It was just ridiculous. And working out with him, I still talk to Champ. I love that guy. He's a great dude. But working out with him and trying to learn from him, because everybody's like, you going to be out there with Champ, you going to learn so much. No, I'm not. I thought I was too. No, I'm not. I can't do that.
This isn't something you can learn.
No, I can't. Would you, like, it's like a regular person talking about they gonna get fast from hanging out with me. No, like, he was his. I want to make it clear that it's not just physical stuff, but it was the speed at which his brain moved and sent messages to his body, and the quickness with which they could react. And like, the press technique is a lot about not being scared to get run by, keeping your body square, and being able to move your feet and your hands at the same time. Like, not synchronized, which may sound easy, like move your feet and hands at the same time, but you know how you walk and you run, like, normally your feet and hands are synchronized. Champ could do that shit like no problem. Like, he could move his feet as if you were running to the left and just be shooting his hands. I can't learn that. It's like, you got to rewire my brain. We ain't figured that out yet. Let me figure out how I can play like a normal corner.
All right, I want to ask you this before we get out of here. How bad the Cowboys need to get themselves a dub against Miami, and how unlikely is that? Like, I just see that when I look on the scoreboard and I see Dallas is the top name, I'm like, ooh, and the bottom team is good. Ooh. Like, Miami gonna try to run it down their throats too.
Yeah, they are. They are. So a lot's been made about the road home stuff, and it's a lot about, it takes away a bit of what Dak's superpower is, and that's like the Peyton Manning ability, the intelligence, the football knowledge to be able to get his team in the right play. And that requires a good deal of communication. So that's kind of been the book on what happens to their offense when they're on the road. Why they get run over, though? Y'all don't need to talk for that. And I guess they got, they don't have perfect football players. And I guess that's the best way to put it, is you're not going to be a great pass rusher. It's hard to be a great pass rusher and a great run stuffer. And they built their team, quite obviously, to play modern football. And which is why their record is really good. Their point differential is really good, because most Sundays they're going to face teams that they're well designed to defend, and they're going to get sacks. They're going to create turnovers. They're going to get pressures. Dak is going to get them an early lead, and they're going to be fine. But when they play one of these other teams that are completely comfortable with punching you in the mouth, it could be trouble. And the trouble is San Francisco may be the best team in football at doing that. So, and that's the one team they got to get past.
That was the thing. They look light in the ass in that game against Buffalo. Like sometimes it ain't really science, right?
Yeah.
Like they just look light in the ass. Like that seemed to be what the issue was simply that. And the argument's been made, is going to be interesting to see who pulls it off, and maybe Shanahan in a way is the guy who's done it, is that if you're building your team for modern football, then you are going to be susceptible for something like San Francisco or something like Miami. Miami figured out, okay, well, if we just get these really, really fast guys out here, we can accomplish with 21 personnel what you need 11 to do, right? We can put 2 backs and 2 receivers out here, but you got to get more people out here to spread this out, and we're just going to have the fastest dudes in the world. San Francisco, we got Debo. Okay, cool. That's how we're going to figure out how to get this done. And so once the linebackers went down to like 225, 230, and they just kind of bouncing around, the team that's set to beat them is the one that's ready to run it on them.
It's obvious when you look at it, but you have to, in order to create some sort of competitive advantage, you have to go the opposite way than people are going. And it's clear that the advantages that people got from going spread was because our offenses were 21 personnel, I-back formation, and the defenses had run stuffer, nose tackles, Gilbert Brown in them, and big-ass linebackers who can't run. And so then they were like, oh, okay, the offenses have changed, so we're going to change our defenses to suit those offenses. And now if you are a big, powerful team, there is some advantage to having a team that's good at that. So I think we want to be able to put some sort of foundational theory on what Shanahan is doing, but I think that's really it, is looking at the personnel, looking at what you're going against, and figuring out how you can attack what's out there. I promise you, if somebody comes out there and base personnel with 3 big ass linebackers, they're not going to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey. They're going to split his ass out and freak them linebackers in space. So it's just about doing the opposite.
Yeah, and then once they get them out there in space, they can't cheat like they used to. Like, I was thinking about how hard it is to play quarter, but I bet it used to be fun.
Yeah.
Back when you could just maul them dudes.
Yeah, I remember throwing kids out of bounds in college, and the talent disparity was nice. That used to be so much fun.
Yo, that's the thing I think that gets forgotten about playing DB in college. College has much more liberal rules about downfield contact. Like, there are a lot of really subtle rule differences between college football and the pros that I think we think about it when we watch and process in some ways, but we don't really talk about out loud. But the one we don't talk about at all is that all that illegal contact, them 5-yard chuck rules and all of that, college ain't got none of that.
As long as the ball's not in the air, you good. And college also has a few guys on the field that don't belong out there. When you get one of those, it's a great Saturday where you line up across like, oh, they ran out of scholarships, huh? Or the one they wanted got hurt, or the one they wanted went somewhere else. Okay, I'm just going to sit right here and wait for my interception. Thank you.
College also has that example. Like, it didn't really apply to you, but I just can't imagine how terrifying it is. Like, the people talk about, like, watching that Randy Moss film. Can you imagine what it was like for that first year at Marshall when they were playing 1AA people and like, people didn't have access to all this data and information and stuff on the computer, and then somebody puts in the clips of Marshall, and they're like, all right, let's... Woo!
Oh gosh, just delusional.
What we gonna do, boys? Like, that's what I feel like. That's when the coach plays the film and this says, "All right, we'll open the floor to questions, suggestions."
Anybody got any ideas?
Yeah, like if you ain't got no idea, I suggest you shut the fuck up, right? Like, that's what you tell anybody. If you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. What you got? Let's all work on this.
Yeah, we were. That was Florida. I think that's my Orange Bowl year, where it wasn't any one individual, but.
Oh, you knew? Oh, y'all knew it before you got there.
We convinced ourselves that it was something different. You know, but we kind of knew. Like, we had worked ourselves up into a frenzy to think that we was going to do something, but we kind of knew there was a number of first rounders on that roster, and as we discussed before, they should have been national champs, or at least in that game, but they had a slip up, and we had to pay for it.
I told you, my good buddy Steve White, rest in peace. He was like, I want to say, a grad assistant at South Florida, and they played a bowl game against North Carolina State when North Carolina State had Manny Lawson and John McCargo and Mario Williams, right? They had 3 first-round picks, but if Mario jumped out, and I think this may have been the year that Mario got drafted number 1 overall. And the thing was, he had loaded up on sacks in one game, but didn't have a lot of sacks. So it was very similar to Myles Garrett coming out, where it was a question about, well, he's got all the tools. Can he give it to you? Man, Steve said he sat in there and watched film with those coaches because he worked on defense, right? They watched that film with Mario Williams. He said he looked over at the offensive coaches and was like, so what y'all gonna do with that big joker? And then just started laughing and walked out. Like, y'all got a plan?
Oh, there is no plan for that. I'm trying to think back. So, yeah, I think I might have told you this before. Anquan Bolden gave me the blues in college, not because he was a great receiver, which he obviously turned out to be in the NFL, but because he was a fucking fullback playing wide receiver, yes. And he just beat me up the whole damn game. I was a junior and I thought I was good. And so when I got to the NFL, my rookie year, we played them and he was in Arizona. I tried to fight that man the whole first half. Eventually, right before halftime, he said something to the effect of, like, chill out. What's wrong with you? Like, we all out here just trying to work. Like, no. I just felt so stupid, too, because what was I going to say? No, you roughed me up when I was a junior. I was like, all right, fine. That was the end of that.
All right. That is Domonique Foxworth. Check him out on the Domonique Foxworth Show. Available all the places you can find this podcast. You can also find the Domonique Foxworth Show. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. Sean, I believe you have picks for prizes for the people.
I sure do have some picks, Bo. Sunday football, Raheem Mostert, 0.5 rush and reception touchdowns. I'll take more there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, same line. I'll take more there. My brother, Younghoe Koo, 1.5 field goals made. I'll take more. And you mentioned it earlier this week, James Cook. They're going to run the ball with him. 15 rush attempts. Let's take more there as well.
By the way, one of my favorite things I've ever seen is when Elle Duncan talks about Younghoe Koo. She uses hashtag ATL way. ATLHOE. like that's the one right there. ATL way. I don't even know how many people in Atlanta know it's Younghoe, because honestly, that's not nearly as much fun.
Yeah, agreed.
But ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. That's Sean Yu. He handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. And happy holidays to you all. We will be back the first Wednesday of January. That feels like January 3rd. Either way, that's when I'm going to be back. It ain't going to be next week. Follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.